Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're welcome to the regular school committee meeting of November 16th, 2016. Let's start by saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Gendron?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Hoey?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy? Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Dakota?
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Tonight we have, under special order of business, a spotlight on excellence. It's one of my favorite topics, and that is the Lincoln School Garden. We have representatives from Mill City Grows here, and as well as Principal Carmona from the Lincoln School. So I think I'll hand it over to you guys, and you can give us a quick description of what happened there.
Great. I apologize, I have a cold, so my voice sounds a little bit coarse, but good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. We're really excited about this project. The Abraham Lincoln School and Mill City Grows have really partnered in an amazing way to create such a wonderful garden. So if you don't mind, can I show you the video of the garden, and after that I will describe a little bit of the project. So
Sure.
We have a video that I was told that we were going to be able to see. Oh, that's the cue for the video.
Before today, this was a vacant lot, and Mill City Grows, Francie Slater worked a lot with the city. So it was filled with trees and shrubs and quite a bit of garbage. So we worked with a lot of different volunteers, teachers from the school, administrators from the school. We had MACOM intern volunteers come out. We had Youth Build out here multiple times. We've had Mission Continues out here, all doing cleanups and laying landscape fabric, putting out mulch from the city, and then finally building our garden beds. And today is finally when we're able to have students out here for the first time filling their garden beds.
You don't need any help, do you? Maybe a little bit. There you go. Now you got to dump it in. Nice job. How are our diggers doing over there? Good?
So the Abraham Lincoln Elementary School is a school of discovery. We really want students to be curious, to wonder, to explore, to work with their hands, to be active problem solvers. So the school garden is really a live learning laboratory and an extension for the classroom and an alternative space to allow students to really do that exploration and do that discovery. Not only through math, where they might be measuring the height of plants and recording different measurements, but also through science, where they're learning about food, the properties of food, eating well, how things grow, and really seeing a project from start to finish. We really encourage our students to be cooperative classmates and active problem solvers. So this is another space where they can engage with their classmates and be cooperative, and also wonder and solve problems about what they're seeing in the school garden over time. This is a community garden as well, so it's not just a part of the Lincoln School, but we've partnered with Mill City Grows very strongly to bring this to fruition, and it's a part of the communities. Our CARES value for this week is cooperative classmate, and all of you showed how cooperative you can be. You took turns, you worked together, you were a great team, and I just want you to know I'm really proud of you. Are you excited about your new school garden? Yeah! Are you excited about your new school garden? Yeah!
So that's pretty much the end of the video. A couple of things that I'd like to say is that this is really a true team effort, and also it is more than what it looks like. It's a garden, but it's also a way to define our discovery curriculum. It is also a way to revitalize the neighborhood. So for us, it means multiple things, and I'm going to have Francie give us an idea of all the inputs that went into getting the garden together. But this would not be possible with the support of some of you, most of you, and also the amazing work that Mill City Groves has done.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having us tonight. And I think the video shows just how powerful an experience like that can be for children, for students. Something very simple of digging your hands into the earth. It can be a profound experience, especially for urban kids. And I am an urban kid, all grown up, and I love gardening, so I can relate to that feeling very closely. It's been a wonderful partnership developing with the Lincoln School, and I do want to thank school committee member Steve Gendron for his advocacy and stewardship of this project from the very early stages when it was just an idea, just a little tiny seed of an idea, and he really gave it water and light and spread the word and really enabled it to grow. And it's been an amazing partnership to bring in all the volunteers that you heard about in the video. Youth Build has been an incredible partner from CTI and also from the Career Academy, which is another partner school that we're working very closely with between the Lincoln and the Career Academy students to really bring those students together. They're blocks apart in the same neighborhood, but really creating connections in the community. And Ruben mentioned that we will be starting also a community garden aspect alongside the school garden, so really reaching out to families to engage families of students and neighbors who, many of whom have students at the Lincoln School, to really be a part of this project as well. On Mill City Grows' behalf, we love this partnership because it allows us to deeply engage with the Lincoln School. We have a Food Corps, AmeriCorps service member, Mustafa Toure, who's been a part of the public school faculty for a couple of years now, but he's transitioned to become part of our team at Mill City Grows. He's at the school 2 days a week, teaching classes alongside teachers in the gardens, bringing the food back to the classrooms. He's also teaching after school with Lincoln's new 21st Century After School program, which is a real benefit to those students to have extended learning time. We are just so excited about all of the enthusiasm from the team. I have to say that the leadership at Lincoln really speaks so loudly in the enthusiasm that the teachers are coming out. This is volunteer work for them. They've joined the leadership team. There's about 6 teachers who have stepped forward very enthusiastically to be part of this work, and we can clearly see that the school is such a strong community of practitioners working together to really do amazing things. And I think the advancement to level 1 is also a testament to all the great things that are happening at the Lincoln School. So we're really thrilled to be partnering, and we thank all of you for your support in this. And several of you were at our ribbon cutting a few weeks ago, that cold day, but it was a warm-hearted day, and it's just the beginning. So thank you again for your support, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them right now.
Well, thank you, Francie.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. I just want to say how fortunate we are to have Mill City Grows in our community and as a partner in our district. These gardens are more than just gardens. They are truly laboratories for our schools. I've had teachers tell me that they're able to build all kinds of lessons, not just science, all kinds of lessons out of the garden. And as you pointed out, I think there's nothing that drives togetherness more than kids sticking their hands in the dirt together. I mean, all the other barriers just break down. And I like to think of this particular garden as kind of a metaphor for the Lincoln School itself and the progress that you've seen, Principal Carmona, over the past few years with your new Level 1 designation as a excellent platform for education. This garden, too, just a couple years ago, was an eyesore of an abandoned lot and has now been turned into a beautiful platform for education. So thank you, Mill City Grows. Thank you, Mr. Carmona, for everything that you've done. Anybody else have comments or questions? Mr. Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Gendron. I'd like to second what he just said to you, and if some of the rest of my colleagues, if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, it's really worth a trip down there to see all of the work that's been done. It is just amazing. And then to see the kids working in there as well and having such enthusiasm for it is just amazing. And I think the more we can get those more kids and more schools involved in doing this with Mill City Grows, I think we're going to come out so far ahead. And so thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, since my colleague made some comments, I want to make a couple about that. I toured 29 schools last year. I'm starting to tour more now. I remember walking behind the Lincoln School when it was unbelievable what was behind there. And I'm not going to bring up some of the bad things that I seen there, and that's my neighborhood, 211 Lincoln Street. My grandchildren live there. Now that I see it now, it's unbelievable. What a job. What a job. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? I might add that we're not done at the Lincoln School yet with the garden. That's true. We are going to need handicap access to that garden, so that's going to be a ramp is going to be required there. And I know Mill City Grows has been working, and the school has been working very hard to find charitable donations. But at some point, we're going to need to get the city and the school department involved to help construct that ramp. So stay tuned. Now that we all understand what value it has, we'll be right there to help you finish up the job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Moving along, we need approval of the minutes for the regularly scheduled school committee meeting on November 2nd, 2016. Motion by Mr. Hoey, second by Ms. Doherty. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have permission to enter. Any questions on the permission to enter? Move approval by Ms. Martin. Second by Mr. Gignac. All in favor say aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, we're going to need a roll call on that because there's dollars involved. So clerk, would you call the roll?
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy? Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
6 yea, 1 absent, approved.
Moving on to the motions. A motion by Ms. Doherty. Respectfully request the superintendent meet with key stakeholders to develop a plan and timeline for addressing adequate nursing coverage in all the schools. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the message, the motion speaks for itself. I just want to point out that our nurses are very important in our schools, not only for the health of our and safety of our students, but for our staff, everyone in those buildings and around those buildings. I think we have an exceptionally high turnover with our nursing staff, and that's one of the areas that I'm hoping the superintendent will be able to kind of unfold for us, give us some information. I think it's also critical that we are in compliance with state laws regarding the number of nurses that we need based on the number of students in the building. So I'm really looking forward to getting a comprehensive report from the superintendent that looks at the, what are some of the underlying issues and also makes some recommendations to us going forward so that we can ensure every school is adequately staffed with nurses. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I'll certainly be supporting this motion. I think also part of, falling under the adequate kind of umbrella would be ensuring in terms of substitute coverage. Historically, that's been an issue over time. So I know that it was addressed say a few years ago, but it's certainly something that as we're talking about the adequacy of the coverage, if we could include that in the report just so we can get an update on the status of how we're managing absentees. And I know that it's come up a lot with school trips and things like that. Thank you.
So did you want to add something to the motion?
I'm just saying that the adequate nursing, that term would also include understanding how we deal with absentees and filling in that way. I can make it as a friendly motion, but I kind of think it's the same.
Okay, so
it's more just
accept that as a friendly
administration.
amendment. Ms. Doherty?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so the record will show that we want Ms. Martin's request to also be addressed there. Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a subcommittee report from the joint subcommittee meeting of the Facilities Subcommittee of the School Committee. I don't have a motion on this agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we do have another motion by Ms. Doherty. Respectfully request the superintendent work with the school committee and city council subcommittees on facilities to establish monthly meeting dates to address the ongoing issues concerning maintenance on our school buildings. Seconded, Mr. Dakota. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Aaron. I know you will be, there is a report coming from the last joint meeting. My intention with this motion is to show that we are all on board as a committee with recognizing the importance of really working with the city to resolve some of these issues with our building maintenance. I was not able to attend the whole meeting last time, which is why I'm looking to get some meetings set out in, get dates in the future so that I can work around my work commitment to be there, because I think it is very important. But the part of the meeting that I did attend towards the end, I was concerned by the tone. I really think that we want to work together, but we have to maintain heat in our buildings. We have to maintain a standard of safety again. And so I'm looking, as we go forward, working with the city to come up with some solutions that will work, because it's not acceptable to have classrooms without heat. And so my goal with this motion is, again, as a body, to say we recognize this is important, to establish some dates going forward so that if all committee members want to attend, even those who are not on the subcommittee, we have adequate notice that we could plan to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Superintendent, but I believe that we're spending about $55 million in maintenance of effort. Is it about that for maintaining our buildings? I mean, it's a significant investment that's coming out of our school funds that we need to make sure it's being applied. I don't know if that was wrong number.
No, the number you quoted is for the entire agreement between the two, which covers several
Other things
parts, yeah.
besides building maintenance, right, okay. But anyway, that's my intention. Thank you.
Anybody else have comments? Mr. Hoey?
I just want to say I support both my colleagues' motions. I want to thank her, and I'll thank her a little bit more after we talk about your minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else? I'll just add that I believe that it was a cooperative meeting. I think that it is the intention of both subcommittees that the city and the school department cooperate in addressing these issues. I think mainly it comes around communication, the misunderstandings, and to that point, I think having a regular meeting, which is something we intended to do anything, but I like your idea of getting it on the agenda so that we can, we can have it scheduled in advance and everybody can make it. I would ask for one minor change, and that is that we change monthly to bi-monthly. Getting all 6 of these people together takes about 2 months as it is. And this last meeting took us several weeks to schedule because we're talking about 2 subcommittees. So I think if we could do a bi-monthly meeting, it might, I think we could still cover all the ground and be a little bit easier to schedule.
If I could just comment on that. I get that it would be difficult to get everybody's schedules. My concern is if we're dealing with classrooms that don't have heat, that's a priority issue, and I don't think we can go out 8 weeks to find a time that works. Even if we just had 2 meetings scheduled, 2 months, 1 meeting each month, to make sure that we have identified what are the really critical areas, I expect you're not going to be doing a monthly meeting for 10 months. I get that, but,
Okay.
Unless, has the heating issue been resolved? Let's ask about that.
I think that's, before we go down that path, I think that's fine.
Okay.
We'll do.
Well, that's really where my intention
I
was.
thought you were intended a monthly meeting,
No, just for a couple.
ad infinitum.
Like,
So
let's get
I think
2 or
that makes sense.
Okay.
I do believe the heating issues are, that we're not sitting pat waiting for the school committee to meet before they address the issues. But I do think, so for the next couple of months, we'll have a monthly meeting, and then we'll shift as we get a better handle on how things are going.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Hoey?
Yeah, when my colleague was just asking you how much money, that formula about how much the city puts into the budget and how much they take out of it. I've been looking at some numbers. I think if Mr. Frisch maybe can help me, or you, Mr. Superintendent. it seems like we only spend, or the city only spends about $500,000 on maintaining our schools. We have charter schools that I believe the city's paying somewhere between $1 million, $1.5 million maybe, or a number that's growing constantly.
Just to help you out there.
Yeah.
The charter schools, the city's paying $18 million, and they get reimbursed for some of those costs of up to $4 million. So the net cost the city is paying for charter schools are $14 million, which is part of the net school spending.
Now, is that a maintenance charge?
No, that's not a maintenance charge.
Not a maintenance charge.
The maintenance, you're right, it's between $400,000 and $500,000 for the maintenance.
For us?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we are on to a subcommittee report of the Joint Facilities Subcommittees. I'd like to ask the body if we could, as part of this subcommittee report, also take number 12, the middle school report, out of order, because I think it relates directly to what was discussed at the meetings. Anybody have any objection to taking that out of order? Okay, motion to move number 12 to the subcommittee report. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Very well. That's my report, so I'm going to ask Ms. Martin to take the chair.
Thank you. So our next item is the subcommittee report from the Joint Facilities Subcommittee meeting by Chair Mr. Steve Gendron.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
You're welcome.
So this meeting was held on November 2nd, included members of the School Committee, Facilities Subcommittee, myself, Mr. Gignac, and Mr. Hoey, as well as the City Council Facilities Subcommittee, Chairperson John Leahy, Councilor Mercier, and Councilor Samaras. Also in attendance was Mr. Frisch, as well as the city manager and Mike McGovern, assistant city manager. It was a rather lengthy and sometimes maybe a little bit contentious meeting, but there were two items up for discussion. The first was to discuss the plans to address the overcrowding in the middle schools. The second was discussion of facilities and maintenance issues. As we just discussed, there were a number of issues brought up, especially several very high-profile issues like heating and leaks in the roofs. The response to that was for us to continue to monitor those issues and for the city and the school department to begin working together and communicate with us. As a result, we're going to be meeting monthly to discuss that. So I think we've covered that issue enough tonight. What I wanted to talk a little bit more about was the plans to address the overcrowding. And if it's okay at this time, I'd like to ask the superintendent to give us a brief summary of the report that was compiled tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Gendron. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna let Mr. Gary Frisch start his report, and then I'll fill in for whatever questions you might have or additional information. Mr. Frisch.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. It's my pleasure to give you a synopsis of the written report that was sent to all school committee members. It started with school committee member Steve Gendron, the chair of the facilities subcommittee, requesting a plan for the middle schools for next year, with the goal of reaching an average class size between 25 and 26. The superintendent leadership team has been meeting over the past 2 months, and the following facility needs are present at the current time. The 4 classrooms at the Roger STEM Academy is needed for grades 5 through 6. And that would be a 1-year solution for the 17-18 school year. And then a longer-term solution will be needed. And we're recommending a place for a new STEM Academy to handle the middle schools, grades 6 through 8. That would be a permanent solution. because as the kids matriculate from grade 6, there needs to be a new place for them to go to. Before we begin the analysis, I provided for you a chart of the current class sizes for grades 5 through 8. And for the 5th grade, which we're most concerned with, the current class size is between 26 and 30 students. Now, there's a caveat with that, and in that total, please note that the class sizes include pull-out students. Actual class sizes are lower due to our pull-out model. I've talked with the Director of Special Education. We're looking at 140 students within the 5th grade. So 150 students are pulled out throughout the day, up to 60%. They can be pulled out. We have...
if I could just...
Yes, Mr. Gendron.
Thank you,
Sure.
Ms. Martin. So when these students are pulled out, are they all pulled out at the same time? Or are they pulled out, sporadically? Are there ever times where all the kids are in the classroom?
Yes, at least 40%.
So 40% of the time, all the kids are in the classroom?
Right,
Okay.
at least.
And then the other 60% of the time, are they all gone, or are
For
they
each student,
pulled out
depending upon their special needs, they can be pulled out from a small percentage all the way to 60%.
Okay.
So it varies per student.
In the 40% of the time that they're in the classroom, they're in class, right? It's just not like...
Correct.
So they're actually learning going on at that time. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Additionally, I was asked to provide the operating cost for next year with the addition of 4 new classrooms. The 4 new classrooms would require 4 additional teachers, which would cost $280,000. Another custodian is needed at the Rogers, $55,000, and another guidance counselor, $80,000. With curriculum supplies and furniture, you're looking at a total cost of $440,000 that will be needed to be expended next fiscal year. So that's next fiscal year would be the 17-18 school year. And then I'm still working on the total cost for when we do plan on a new STEM academy, what that operational cost would be. But that would be the permanent solution, and we would need that starting fiscal year 18-19. So I think those were the questions that were asked of me, and I'd be happy at this time to answer any of your questions.
I had just a couple more questions, if it's okay.
Sure.
I noticed in your calculation, so the calculations seem to show that we have in our middle schools right now a little over 27 students, 27.25 students average per classroom.
That's what I came up with.
Yep. And then if your projection for next year is about 26.66, so down slightly next year with the addition of the classrooms in the STEM Academy.
Right. I would also like to mention that at the 5th grade, that's a transition year. We have been seeing signs of increased charter school enrollment, and it could be up to 60 students moving to the charter schools next fiscal year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That combined with the pull-out students, we're looking at less than 26 students.
So that is not included in your estimates
Correct.
for next year? Okay, so that may be even a further reduction.
Right.
So with regard to the 4 classrooms at the Rogers, are we going to be losing anything that we currently use? Is there any loss, any downside in taking taking rooms for classes?
Right. There's a home ec classroom, a very large home ec classroom, and the teachers use that for break, for their lunch break. In addition, there's some offices that we will be converting some office space into classrooms. So we'll be moving some staff from that space. We'll have to find new space for them.
Okay. And the other question I have is relative to the RFP. Do we want to wait? Are you going to talk more about that, or is somebody going to talk more about that, or?
Sure.
I don't know if other members have questions either.
And Mr. Hoey,
Thank
and then
you.
we
Just
can
to
move
stay
forward with the next one.
on what Steve was talking about, I did a tour yesterday of the Rogers School, and it's a school I went to, I believe, 4 different times. I would have to think about it hard, but at least 4 times I was sent to the Rogers School. So I know the school very well. I looked at classrooms, and I've talked to the principal, and I've talked to the superintendent a little bit about this, but I believe the Rogers School has upwards of 6 classrooms. And it can be done by breaking down the 4 that you said, and then he had another one. And they also have our TV room there that we have our meetings in, that I know a little bit about construction, and it's something that can be moved pretty easily. The wires, and move the computers out of there, and you could have about 6 different classrooms. So, but my other concern would be when you raise a school up to that many numbers, meaning 700, I believe the number will be for that school, if we filled all those, roughly?
Close, yeah.
So 700, and then you say staff, that's where I have a problem. When you say, I don't have a problem with 4 teachers, but for 6 classrooms, let's say 6 teachers. A custodian, we're down 1 over there, but we have a lot of maintenance issues, which I think you'll hear later on. And then a guidance counselor. To me, that school needs more than a guidance counselor. Nothing against guidance counselors, but I believe they need another administrator. And I think it's something we have to look at in a few of our schools because of a lot of other reasons. I don't want to get into that, but as far as that school goes, I think that would be the perfect fit when you raise the numbers up that high. And that's what I've done all week, tried to get together with myself and other people, and that's what I think we can do. So I think you can get about 150 kids over to that school pretty easily for now. Thank you.
Mr. Gignac.
Thank you very much. Just a question for Mr. Fisher, the superintendent. I believe at the last meeting, the plan was to open 6 classrooms, and now we're at 4 classrooms at the Rogers. So what has happened in the meantime?
We believe that one of the 6 classrooms, one of the classrooms is a CSA classroom that would have to be moved. And so we prefer not to make that move unless we have to. And so we believe the numbers are as good as they are this year, and potentially in terms of class size, and potentially even lower. So we don't want to make a move unless we absolutely need to. As well as the TV studio, that would probably be our preference, to use the TV studio if we needed a classroom, as opposed to displacing students.
Okay. And
If I could, if you could define CSA?
Sure. Children with
Autism.
on the spectrum of autism.
Yes, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I want to address your question and also a little bit of your question earlier. The original plan of having 6 classrooms is to create capacity to address numbers, to address the increasing numbers. When you're currently the 4th graders, we have to find space for them. So immediately you need 4 classrooms for those 4th graders. Right. It's a given. That's by not bringing in any new students into the fold, into the Rogers. The 2 current 5th graders that we added this year, we added only 2, if you'd remember, yep, will continue to need 2 classrooms, so which they have already. So those are taken, just imagine they stay in the same classroom, just have a different teacher or something like that. So the addition, we do recognize that we do have additional two classroom capacity. We can tap, as Mr. Hoey said, with very minor changes can be done within a month to prepare them into an additional classroom. The reason that we didn't move on it right away, the original intent was if you move on them to address whatever, maybe bring the numbers down like we did last year from the other schools by inviting parents to move their children to the Rogers School, and that would help all the other middle schools, is that if that happens, that happens, but we are ready to tackle it with the 2 classrooms. But it's not as easy for parents to move their kids from 5th to 6th as it was easy for us from 4th to 5th, because 4th they have to change school anyway, so it's a lot easier to sell. But if that were to happen, we can increase those 2 5th classrooms current 5th, which will be 6 next year, would be able to increase to a 3rd or even a 4th if we're able to move that and establish them, to establish the normal 4 strands grade, because that school is going to be 4 strands for every grade. So that was the reason behind it, and we held back because if by moving that program, the CSA program, it would involve other changes that there is not necessary to do all those changes if you're not going to be able to bring the kids, or there is no need for it, because we also learned from our director of transportation that the plan for the charter school to increase the capacity, which would include, they're saying 32, they're confirmed that it will be 32 5th graders. Yeah. That is becoming more of a reality, and we see that the numbers of the 4th graders as they go to the 5th are going to be even, lower numbers than what we had projected. But agreed with you, it's a 2 classroom capacity in the STEM schools that we could tap on anytime we need.
Okay. And on the same topic as far as change, I believe the initial proposal also included an additional assistant principal. So that's off the table now?
Well, it's not that it's off the table. I think eventually when you build the STEM school to become a K through 8, I think the school committee would have to make a decision at that point when we come back to you on a long-term basis. Yeah. Do you want to have 2 schools, 1 elementary STEM and 1 middle STEM? Yeah. That means you really have to add both a principal and an assistant principal. Or do you want to have 1 large school? I think much of that is going to depend on the facility itself that we will be using, and if it is 1 large school, then we will, at that point, we will definitely need another assistant principal, because it becomes very large. At this point of the 4th and 5th, you're just about at that cutoff of all the other schools. It'll be a decision to make, do you want to add an assistant principal now? But that would bring in the argument to say, well, why not the Sullivan? The Sullivan is sitting around 600-700 as well. Why not the Stoklosa? Why not the other? Some schools are already there at 700. Right. So should we then present a plan to say that every school that's over 600, say, I'm just a hypothetical number, that every school over 600 we should plan for an additional assistant principal, or should we wait until the STEM school gets its 7th grade? At that point, you would have probably most likely have to do it anyway.
Sure. And I understand that, but it was a part of the
right. No, agree.
And one thing that I noticed that is not included in this projected operating cost for this expansion is technology. Mr. Frisch, it's staff and then 25 grand for desks and curriculum supplies. I can't imagine you can retrofit 4 classrooms within that 25,000 for technology. So if you just include that next time we discuss that.
Be happy to.
We don't want, it's a STEM school. They need some technology.
Excellent point.
Okay. And then we'll talk about the RFP, I assume, shortly. Okay.
Mr. Hoey.
Just to add a little bit, if you don't mind, after listening to him, I was at that school last night. I went to a site meeting, school site council meeting, which I visited a few so far, and oh boy, it was unbelievable. But they had a drone in there. They had a drone in that school. They got these 17 huge TVs. I don't think they can fit them in all classes that are on wheels. What it's done so far to that school. If I was back then at the Rogers School, I would have had a PhD. I mean, they had me involved last night. So what's going on over there, I'm telling you, is unbelievable. And those school site council meetings there that you two, I think it was you two that brought it up, unbelievable. Unbelievable, but thank you.
I think you could still get that PhD, Bob.
Yeah.
On it.
Okay.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. So currently, the way the STEM school is structured, it's 2 strands at the elementary level, is that correct? Four? So we've got 4 strands that are going pre-K, so they have...
To 4.
Okay.
And the
To 4.
fifth is only 2.
There's 4 each in each one of those grades, and then it goes into, what would happen in your proposal is that you'd go to 4 fifth graders, which would be a natural transition,
Yeah,
and we'd maintain the 2 6.
Yes.
Okay. So there wouldn't be any additional students coming in then?
Not
You'd just be maintaining your level? Okay, okay. So there's no addition to it, it's just kind of the natural growth of the population as it exists there. Okay. So as we're talking about the 2-part solution, and as we talk about that aspect of this, I think that, and again, maybe we can just wait and get into the RFP process in a secondary way. But I do think you kind of hinted at the question that's really going to be put before us is, are we building a K-8, or are we building an elementary with a that will feed into a middle school STEM? So I'll defer then and wait until we get into that discussion, then we can go from there.
Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I understand that this was an old idea. That was quite a while ago. I'm not sure how many years before me when it was decided to have a STEM. So I'm not really sure. Maybe if we dig in the school committee meetings in minutes, maybe we'd find out what the original intent is.
The original intent, based on the motion I made during a curriculum subcommittee, was that we were building a K through 8. I don't think that's, well, we talked about it in both senses. I mean, I think that we were kind of trying, that's why we started with an elementary focus, and then we were talking about, there were both options open to us. We did have conversations about moving it towards being a feeder school for the Stocklosa, primarily because of the physical plant that the Stocklosa offered. And that's kind of what I'm hinting at as we're getting into this RFP about if we're building a middle school STEM, it's not going to be an easy build if we're retrofitting an existing building. That's not, the Stocklosa was built to have the lab space, to have all that already in it. It would be much easier to do that as opposed to taking an older school kind of physical plant and what we'd have to invest to create a middle school, a STEM middle school exclusively. But, all these issues are kind of merging together. I apologize for that.
Any other comments? Mr. Superintendent, did you want to talk a little bit about the RFP now?
Yes. Well, we're calling it the RFP. I call it in my vocabulary, I call it the expansion that was all along planned, because when you admit children into STEM school, they're going to every year go one more grade, one more grade, one more grade. Eventually, you'd have to worry about them going into 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And also combined with that, the capacity that these kids are not just, they're not kids that were pulled out necessarily from all the schools. We're just to lower capacity, and now we do have capacity to put them back. We do not have capacity to put them back. So that's why I said we have to look at what the school committee is wants to do or wanted to do when they came up with this idea. Because if the idea was to be a feeder school to the other middle schools, then where are the seats? Because we do not have seats in the other schools. We are already receiving motions from the school committee members telling us we would like to see the capacity to go the student ratio to go even lower as what it is now. So imagine if you're going to use only your current middle schools as where the destination for these current students, that means we're going to have to create more seats. How do you create more seats in those schools is a plan we would have to look at. I do not have the answer to it right now, but it's certainly one of the plans that we will be looking at. And the other plan that we need to look at is do we want to then have a separate middle school? And this then STEM school becomes a feeder either to the new or as mentioned earlier, to the Stoklosa, and have not just a regular middle school. That could be so too, but you'd need to find capacity because there is no more space in the current Rogers to look for putting the 7th and 8th grade there. It's unless we build on the land, and again, that's another probably alternative to be discussed with the city. I do not know. What is even the possibility of that? We have not started the discussion with them on that. But that's definitely another alternative to try to create capacity where the Rogers is. But I can tell you right now with full confidence that it would not be within the current walls to put another 7th and 8th. Another possibility is to just say, well, let's look for a new facility, whether leasing it or whatever the city can work out as a deal to get a new capacity, a new structure where you could have maybe either 5 through 8 or 6 through 8. We even talked about that a little bit, to have a 6 through 8 and then have the school be considered K through 8, but in two different buildings, where the 6 to 8 could be housed somewhere else, even though it's considered the same school. So that's something. In any case, we do not have place. I think the only possibility, earliest possibility for us to create capacity, to create space, is when the high school is built. It's completed, because when the high school is completed, there will be possibilities. There will be possibilities. There have been discussions of using perhaps the current freshman academy building, which is large. It has a capacity of nearly 1,000 students. Years from now, I do not know whether that's going to be the wish of the school committee then or now to plan on that. But it's a ways ahead. We're talking about the need being next year. That's a solution that's not going to happen for several years. So we need to figure out a solution now for when the 7th graders come, which is a little bit over a year and a half from now. And the reason that we wanted to start the process now, because if you're looking for new capacity, we don't want to wait until let's get to next year, and then we'll talk where we're going to, at this point we are now, we'll talk where we're going to be putting the 7th graders. So we would like to find some process, call it RFP if you'd like, but define what our needs are for the 7th graders then, and then call for, have a discussion of what we want to do and develop a process that we can work with the city to provide us with that additional capacity.
I think one of the wrinkles, and I'm sorry I didn't say this when you had asked the question before, I think one of the wrinkles is that when we first started the STEM conversation in that curriculum subcommittee, we were in the process at that point of focusing on SBA to build a new middle school. So it was kind of in that context. So I understand your point, that it's not about that. Without that, we have a problem. I completely understand what you're saying. I think there are a lot of conversations that we've had kind of around this issue over time, and it's certainly going to call on the administration and on the committee to start coming up with some, I think, out of the box ideas. And I think that, again, when we talk about splitting it at 6th versus our traditional 5th, there's a lot of, I think, unintended consequences that can happen if we kind of break with the models that we have. And this is, I'm hoping we're early enough in the process that we can start introducing new ideas. I know I had brought up in a different context, but when we start looking at the way our buildings are structured, is there a capacity, when we look at our pre-K classrooms, that I think it would be easy to place those classrooms in a central site to be able to do that work together in one place, frees up several classrooms at every one of our elementary schools. Do we then go to a K3, a K5, 6, 9, 6, 8 model that allows you to take over those classrooms and increase your size at the middle school? If we do that, we then have increased flexibility over time to be shifting, wherever the bubble may be. And I think that's a big thought. That would need, again, that we would need to spend, and that we would need to rely on the administration to do some work to kind of see what the impact that could have. But I do think it's an option we should be looking at, because over the long term, it is going to be Our numbers, they're not going down dramatically. I mean, even if we look at the, 30 or so going, to the charter schools, overall, we're seeing an increase, and that increase has been happening over many, many years. So I think coming up with a longer-term solution is certainly what we're all hoping to find. And I think we are going to need to be having some conversations in this, like now, as opposed to 6 months from now or a year from now, about some of the big changes we could make that would really have a dramatic impact on our ability to provide quality education across the spectrum, across the, pre-K right through high school. So we need to be able to throw some different things into the mix to try and come up with some good solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Ms. Doherty?
I just wanted to add something I was thinking about. When Ms. Martin mentioned pulling the pre-K out, what if we did the other end of it? If we had the 8th graders go to the high school, I don't know, we've already got a really big high school, but we're renovating that school. I mean, that's another possibility perhaps to look at. That, just wanted to make that.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, our team have been looking since before the summer, before we closed the last year. We've been looking at various options. We have looked with the under the leadership of Student Services. We're doing all the numbers counting for us. We have looked at all the options. We've looked at the option of the pre-K center and pulling all the pre-Ks. So we continue to look at that. We looked at the option of an 8th grade academy also, like essentially what you're pointing out. A couple of things that, we do not have all the answers, because obviously there are a lot more, as Ms. Martin said, it's a discussion that to be had, not the solution to be, we're not even at the stage of solutions at this point. We're at the stage of discussion. But what is important in that discussion to remember is that when we start the construction of the high school, and Mr. Martin would tell you if he were here, because we did ask him that question, that this is really the wrong time to try to bring me any more kids, because as they're shuffling, they don't know what the new building is going to be, but if it is in downtown, they're going to have to do a lot of shuffling. And that would be, he said, just leave us alone until we come. Don't bring us anybody right now, because we were talking to him about possible capacity for bringing some sped classes there. And as with respect to the center for the curriculum pre-K center, we looked at that too. But any solution that you look at, and we're looking at other solutions as well. We're looking at also other plans to bring in our out of district SPED students for various reasons, because that's a win-win. Parents want them to be close to them and not travel an hour away, and also it is a lot easier for us to integrate the kids into the local classrooms when it's time for them. It's a short ride, and also the biggest reason of all, which is going to be a tremendous amount of money saved, lower expenses for both out of district tuition and also the transportation on the city side. So the city will be also saving lots of money if we do that. So we're looking at all these plans. But every time we look at the plans, we have to sit down with the city and talk to them, because at the end of the day, to us, their plans and wishes, to them, it's a reality. They have to come up with the funding to do it, because as you all know, they are the ones who are responsible for the capacity. They have to create the capacity. So we're working with them. And we've been looking at various places just as recent as yesterday, and the city manager and his team are cooperating with us and working with us. We met not too long ago. We'll be meeting very soon again to discussing the various options we're looking at.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, and I think that's obviously the process that we're all going to have to live through. I would just say, and as a rule, I wasn't really thrilled about the idea of pulling pre-K out. I mean, I like the idea always of them being part of the school community that they were going to grow into. I do think that we're obviously in a situation where we're looking for extreme solutions. I will say one of the benefits is that the physical needs, the classroom needs of preschool would be less intrusive and less difficult to create a safe environment than it would be to create a middle school, just because you need to obviously meet all the EEC regulations and all that. Those are all based on safety. For middle school students, it is a matter of you're retrofitting in whether it's science or all the other aspects of middle school that can be extremely, extremely expensive. But I think as we move forward, certainly this is something that, whether it's coming through the facilities committee perhaps, or however we want to do it, that a monthly, at the least, a monthly update will be important for us. And as we move forward, I think it'll be more and more important that we have opportunities for conversation around it, both from the school committee, the administration, and ultimately with the city. Thank you.
Well, we're meeting monthly anyway, so, I mean, we could take that up.
Yep.
I'm just, any other comments? Mr. Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Gendron. Recently at the Mass Convention, I was speaking to the Perkins representative, and I said, if the school is staying downtown, please tell me that you have a contingency that doesn't include double sessions. And they said they had 7 different plans in place and none involved double sessions, which I said, good news. So I wanted to share that with everybody.
Anybody else? Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. So the city is aware of this RFP that is being requested? They're not.
We have not requested an RFP. We're calling it, as I said, to me, my vocabulary means, additional capacity. Is it going to be an RFP for specific guidelines? We're not even at that stage of defining the specifications. We have talked to them about the, I think it was a few weeks ago, the mayor was involved as well. We met with the city manager. We talked about getting a facility. If we get a facility for a certain, I think it was at that time, for the day school, for the SPED, and the word, that's where the word was first put out, where the city manager said, okay, whatever the need is, whether it's a day school or you're doing an expansion of whatever else, you need to then define all the specs, and then we would issue an RFP, and we'll go from there.
Well, I asked because the report in front of us says we suggest a motion be made to have to authorize the administration seek an RFP for a building to house the STEM Academy Middle School.
Mr. Gignac, I'd like to suggest that we refer that entire report to the facilities subcommittee, and then we can, begin the discussion about, do we need an RFP? What should be the parameters of the RFP? Are there other options available to us? So,
okay, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you.
If I may, I mean, the RFP, for those who might not be familiar out on TV, with request for proposals, and that's exactly what we intend to do, is to request for proposals for what? We would have to say is for the capacity of the STEM. We would like, we're going to have so many classroom needs. We're looking at proposals for that. And I think with the city, we'll help with those professionals at the city refining the specs for the RFP.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not going with your initial recommendation tonight.
It depends how you're looking at it. I'm not sure. You can decide whatever you want. If you want to put it to subcommittee, that's fine too. I don't think it's going to make a difference.
It's fine to go on the subcommittee. It's just in front of us is a recommendation to authorize you to seek an RFP for a STEM middle school, and that's not the route we're going at this point. Correct?
Fine.
So are you making a motion to refer this to the facilities subcommittee?
Sure. Yeah.
By Mr. Gignac. Anybody want to second that? Second by Ms. Martin. All in favor? All right, we'll refer that report to the facilities subcommittee. I just wanted to make a quick comment. Are you finished, Mr. Gignac? Okay. Regarding the numbers, I'm encouraged by the report and the fact that, we have a plan and that we are going to see numbers next year that are lower than numbers this year. But I think you also need to keep in mind that this year's numbers are abnormally high because of the influx of middle school students. And so it's good that we're going in the right direction, but personally, I don't feel satisfied with numbers of 27 and 26. I don't know what the right number is, but low 20s seems better to me. And I think that should be part of our analysis is, do we have a goal as a district? Is the administration, are there studies out there? Are there things we can do to determine where we think we should be to provide the highest quality education to our students. And that sort of has to be a part of our analysis as to how we move forward.
If I could, Mr.
Yes,
You're absolutely right, because there is a slew of studies that will tell you exactly what the sweet spot is at each kind of education level. I'm sure they're updated now from the last time I ever looked at them. But I know that when we were first talking about classroom size reduction, we were talking about getting those younger grades, K through 3, were always recommended to be at 18 as the perfect kind of level. And then as you move up, your middle schools, it was set to be like a 24 as kind of the perfect number to have in there. And as you hit the high school, they went as high as 28 and 29. But I think as we're having this conversation, updated information would be great, because again, I'm going on data from like 15 years ago. But I'm sure that there's updated data on from research, current research, that would tell us if that's changed, or, so at least we know what we should be shooting for, because I think you're right, that we kind of need a goal in this.
Great. Okay, I think we've forwarded that report to the Facilities Subcommittee, and that concludes my subcommittee report of the Facilities Subcommittee. Have a motion to place that on file?
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Hoey.
Your subcommittee meeting, the minutes, I'd like to speak about those.
Sure, go, please.
If you don't mind. Thank you. Well, when I read your minutes, and I shouldn't be never criticizing someone on how to run a subcommittee, but when I read your minutes, I felt like I wasn't even at that meeting, to be honest with you. And because there's a few quotes in the Lowell Sun too, and I wasn't really happy with the minutes. And minutes are a funny thing, I think some of the best things happen sometimes when you're in executive session, and we have minutes going on in there too. And there's a lot of things that are said to each other. But when I didn't see anything about myself in there, in those particular minutes on your facility subcommittee, I remember very clearly that I said, and then my colleague polished it up like a lot of my colleagues do. When I seen her motions, I became a happy person again, because then I felt pretty good about both motions, because the Sun had a few quotes, and I want to say one was, they were talking about me, and I brought up maintenance, a shortage of nurses, and school security. And I think it rattled a few cages. But then I read on in the same article, and this was just a couple of days ago, this was Manager Murphy alluded to a power struggle between the two sides when he was asked about the meeting between the officials, between himself and our officials. And he said, we got the sense that this is their domain and they're going to keep it as their domain. That issue really bothered me for almost a couple of days. I had a hard time sleeping. And to me, there was another quote made in the Lowell Sun. Councilor Rita Mercier said she took exception to any insinuation that councilors were meddling in school business. Well, I don't know about the rest of the school committee, but I want them to meddle in school business. I think it's very important. I think the Sun should have asked our superintendent to make a quote on this too, but he happened to be down on the Cape. And what I really feel is about 8 of them over there on the city council side, they've been on the school committee one way or another. So having them meddle is not going to hurt us. But I think that issue that we're going to talk about some other time, I know I can't talk about it tonight, but about renting our schools and stuff, I'll talk about it some other time. But I want to just say, I want you to meddle on school issues over there. And if I was ever elected to the city council, and I tried twice, the first thing I would want to do is I'd want the city solicitor to get down in Boston, and find out once and for all, because this ain't the first school committee that's been asking you about the law about neighborhood schools. So if you want to meddle on something, get us the law back here so we know what direction to do in this city. So there's something I want to meddle on their side of business for a minute. That's what I think they should do, and thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Mr. Hoey, did you want to recommend changes to the minutes?
No, I don't. I'm happy. After Jackie put those 2 motions in, my stuff is covered. And I want to thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're paying attention to me because I need help. So thank you very much.
So I'd entertain a motion to accept this as a report of progress. So moved by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Hoey. All in favor? Very good. Okay, moving to the next item on the agenda, the Youth Summit Report. Mr. Superintendent, I wonder if I could ask you to give us a quick summary of this report.
Yes, we will, and I'm going to ask our Deputy Superintendent Durkin to do that.
Thank you, Superintendent Kalfawi. This report is in response to the motion by School Committee Member Robert Gignac, which was approved on November 2nd, 2016, to request the Lowell Public Schools to participate in the Massachusetts Youth Summit on Opiate Awareness taking place at the Tsongas Center. I'm happy to report that with the efforts of Assistant Superintendent Gary Frisch and Family Resource Coordinator and all of our school leaders who tried to look at their schedules and figure out how best to do this for our students. We will be having most of our 8th grade students attending. A couple of our schools have field trips scheduled that same week, so it was a challenge to have them out 2 days in a row. Additionally, all of our grade 9 students will be attending as well and walking to the Tsongas. So we're excited about that, and we feel that this is a great free opportunity for our children to participate in.
Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Frisch, and Mr. Takoto for making this happen in such a short period of time. I think it's an opportunity that not many districts are going to be having this in their area. So having this many kids is I never expected this to be so successful. So I'm very appreciative. I think that it's going to be great for our students. So thank you again.
Anything else? Okay, we need a motion to accept this as a report of progress by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Dakota. All in favor? Motion carries. The second is the Bridge Annual Report. Mr. Superintendent, would you give us a quick summary on
Yes,
on this?
thank you again, and I will ask again Deputy Durkin to present the report.
Thank you. This is the annual report from the Bridge Middle School Alternative Program. We receive this report each year from them that highlights their reports, the information relative to the previous school year. So this is our 2015-16 school year report that provides you with program profile, performance data for the students, and their core curriculum, including staff profiles and student initiatives.
Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. Deputy Durkin, as I look at this, and it is, certainly a report that we receive every year, I think it's really always a very impressive piece that they create to kind of highlight the good work that's happened at the Bridge. Noting right in that introductory letter from Dr. Mabry, the shift that has happened now. He includes in his remarks that this is the last year they'll be issuing this report, that now the school is coming under the auspices entirely of the Lowell Public Schools. Could we get, and it doesn't need to be tonight, but could we get a report on how this transition process is going? I know we had concerns around some union issues and there was a lot that went into this, and it happened kind of on the fly during our budget conversations, but it would be great to get a report of where we are in the process and how prepared we feel, as we come up on the midpoint of the year.
Absolutely.
Yes, as you know, we have worked it out through a waiver with the union for this year, because we did do it on the fly. And currently, I think it was 2 days ago, another meeting with the director, Spiegel, about it, and we agreed on all the things that they're doing differently from us, listed it out, and I asked her to put those things in writing so that we can sit down with the union leadership first and discuss those, and I just got those today in writing. So I will be presenting those in a sit-down meeting. I suggested that she should join us with the leadership of the union, and we go over those. Some are very simple, some are not, and then we will as a result of that discussion, we will come back to the school committee on what we suggest to do going forward. Thank you.
Anybody else on the bridge report? Need a motion to accept this as a report of progress by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Dakota. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next is the monthly budget report, and again, I wish that, Mr. Superintendent, you could give us a quick summary. Perhaps you want to pass this to Mr. Frisch.
Sure. As usual, we'll pass this to Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Frisch.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. It's my pleasure to give a very short synopsis of this budget report. As you know, this is a monthly budget report. We prepare it in this same format each month. The original budget was $158 million. Carry forward from purchase orders from the previous fiscal year are $1.8 million for an adjusted total of $160 million. Year-to-date expenditures through October 31st are $32 million. We have some outstanding purchase orders yet to be received of $13 million. So our remaining budget is $114 million, almost $115 million. In addition to our local budget, we have revolving funds, and those are dated November 9th, 2016. So on November 9th, 2016, I looked up the balances in each of these revolving funds and have listed it for you in this report. And as you can see, there are several revolving funds. The two biggest ones are the SPED circuit breaker, which has $2.9 million in it, and the food service account. At the present time, it has $423,000 in it. So that's at a low point. As we get reimbursements from the federal food service program, that balance will grow. And so it should grow up to about $2 million. So at any rate, those are the balances as of November 9th, 2016. And again, I'll prepare this report each and every second board meeting of each month. And then, of course, is a detailed report by account number for you to look at the individual balances for each account.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Frisch, for providing this report. One thing, I do appreciate how you laid out the revolving funds this time.
Sure.
I think it's easier to read. If you could just add a few columns so we can see what the balances were in those revolving accounts July 1, and then each month give us the balance so we can see, just like we see on the rest of the report, we can see what's been adjusted or moved out. I think that would be helpful, but I do prefer this presentation rather than the Munis printout. But if you could just include that moving forward, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, I'd be happy to, and I think that's an excellent idea. See some comparisons.
Thank you. No questions for you, Mr. Frisch, tonight.
Darn.
Ms. Martin.
Don't worry. I actually only have one. You had made a recommendation, Mr. Frisch, that we would include the, based on my request for the additional grant information, you made a recommendation that you would be able to include it in the monthly reports. I know you had sent us a sample of what that could be. Could we perhaps move forward with that being part of our monthly reports now?
Absolutely. I did check to see if there were any changes from the last month. There were no changes. So for this month, but I can certainly include that with the financial report, and I did say that. So the only reason
So if I could ask though, so why wouldn't so the information as I looked at it looked like it was showing a spend down. Wouldn't that change every month? In the grants the same way it does on this?
The budget, there was no additional grants when I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about the totals, but I'm saying as we spend the grants we have down over the year, that we should be able to track them the same way we track our traditional budget. And I believe that that form had that on that. Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly.
Yeah, I don't believe it did, but I will double check.
If you could I mean, that's the kind of information I would
Okay.
want to be able to have,
Right.
and if it's
Sure.
in the same format, whatever's easiest for you, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I think if you can fold it into the monthly report, that would be
Sure.
really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, we need a motion to accept this budget report as a report of progress by Mr. Dakota, seconded by Ms. Doherty. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a vote under new business. We already have done the middle school report. A vote to accept a donation of 60 books to the Office of Student Support Services, Early Childhood Development. We have a letter here. The Office of Student Support Services, Early Childhood Development, recently received notification from On the Move that a donation of 60 books has been awarded to the Lowell Public Schools. These books will support professional development and community implementation of Lowell's public school preschool curriculum, Module 4. And we have a list of books, including The Three Little Pigs and The Somewhat Bad Wolf. I recommend that the Lowell School Committee vote at the regular school committee on November 16th to accept this donation. Motion by Ms. Doherty to accept the donation, seconded by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, we need a roll call because this is a financial donation.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy? Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we have 2 convention and conference requests. I'd entertain a motion to take both of those requests together by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Hoey. Any questions? All in favor of the requests, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, we have to do a roll call on that as well.
Ms.
Okay.
Doherty?
Do a roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy? Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Okay, and finally, under communications, we have a letter of appreciation to the Lowell Fire Department. Dear Chief Winward, I am writing on behalf of the Lowell School Committee to thank you for the many Lowell Public School families who benefited from participation in the annual Coats Drive, Coats for Ann Above, held on October 14th. Retired Lowell firefighter Larry Finn, along with all members of Local 853, including Lieutenants Michael Ryan, Paul Casella, Michael Boldatini, worked diligently to raise money to provide 150 Lowell Public School students with brand-new coats from Kohl's department store. Please know that the tireless efforts of the Lowell Fire Department, Local 853, have brightened the coming winter for these students who receive the coats. In addition to the new coat drive, the fire department also provided gently used coat giveaway the following weekend for families who could not participate in the Kohl's event. The event was well received. We are thankful for the firefighters who support our children. I want to add my thanks to the Lowell firefighters for doing this important program. Well, you need a motion to accept this as and place this on file. Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Gignac. All in favor say aye. Opposed? That brings us to the end of the agenda. We need a motion to adjourn. Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Dakota. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Aye. Thank you and good night.
I want them to medal. Medal.